Don't know if you can hear that, but the rain started, so I took the gutter down and shoved the downpipe end in there. I don't really want to get wet in between folds of metal where I've got a silicon later. Yeah, that might just about stuff me for the day. I've got other things I desperately should be doing anyway. Batteries are probably charged. I actually took them over to my parents' place because it's a pretty shit day and I don't know exactly how long it's going to be before we get a bright sunny day. But anyway, got a bunch of this from an undisclosed location and going to need a wash, but that's basically Charlotte mustard. Beautiful big bloody leaves on the bastard. I don't know if you can see them sort of leaves. That's some of the best I've seen. That's just sort of starting to go to seed. I'm going to chop this up. Give it a wash first and then chop it up and then boil it. And, should be pretty good. I was surprised to see this one so good. By the way, hedge trimmer that I put in a place to get sold, $45. I put on a hedge trimmer that cost about $325, and then said, bugger it, I just want to get rid of it. So I put $45 on, and then she said, oh, minimum $30, and I thought, well, gee, you know, that's a bit low. And they've sold it for $19.50, even though the minimum was $30. Anyway, some bastards got it for bloody peanuts. Really should have been sold for more, but at least it's sold. And as for the stupid curved window thing, yeah, I got it back again, didn't I? So anyway, it's about $20 in my pocket. I wasn't going to realistically use it anyway, so yeah. But I went in with that to that joint the other day just to check up on it. Had a bit of time. I thought, stuff it, I'll go in there and see if it's sold. And walked out with $20 and a bloody window that I never really wanted. Might come in handy for something. I've got a few ideas for it. I just didn't want to turf it out straight away because it's hard to get sort of half-circle windows. They're sort of not easy to come by. And I've got a bit of an idea for possible use for it. I'll probably just stick it with all my other glass in the front veranda anyway. Just a little bit of a coffee stain. Looking through the paper here, this is one of the sheets. I usually get the rest of the paper and just fling it to one side because I don't feel like handling so much bloody newspaper when all I need is about 3 pages. Anyways, that would have been a good one. I had someone recommend me go to that one. Occasionally they have it come up. It's a labourer for roadworks. I think I might have missed that one though. This was a ripper here. I couldn't believe this crap. Retail store manager, and you think, well, what are you selling? Shirts and stuff. And I look at the bottom, Cheeky Chicken. I know that place. They sell food. Retail store manager required for a busy fast food outlet. Okay. Somehow I don't see fast food as retail store. Anyway, you've got all these, bullshit. This is one of the most tangled ones I've ever seen. Implementing and maintaining control systems. Good blimey. Are you ready? AQF Associate Degree in Business, Management or relevant field, Tetra 2 qualification and advantage. Are you completely shitting me? If you had an AQF Associate Degree in Business, why the bloody hell would you be managing a fast food thing in a food court of a friggin' mall? Get real. Some of these ones, you just couldn't even jump over it. I've seen these other ones, cleaner, 6 to 9 hours per week, experience required, all these other bloody things. you know, other ones. 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, early start. You got to clean out a shop before the shop opens at about 7 AM. And it's, yeah, 7 days a week. This is the one here. Yeah, 6 to 9 hours per week. This is what I was just saying. Experience necessary. I tell you what, there's some real horseshit jobs. A few hours and you got to have this, that, and the other, and you know, really intriguing. Quite intriguing what they expect, and they offer a couple of lousy hours. And the reality of the situation is, if you take on those hours, just as when I was at the chicken plant, that was, what, like 15 hours a week? By the time I paid for fuel and went in there and got paid, you know, the wage itself, oh, it wasn't too bad. Wasn't really great either, but the amount they cut me off in welfare, I might as well have not even worked those 15 hours a week. And some weeks I come ahead, you know, 50, $100 a week, but then you'd blow an extra friggin' $40 in fuel. So it was really worth coming out another $15 more than what your fuel was worth, $30 more by the time they cut out all your money of your unemployment benefits to almost match what you were getting in the first place. And they say, oh, you can build up credits, you've got these working credits. Yeah, but you basically blow all those in the first 2 weeks, and then it's not even, you know, you're back to square one. And then they take out just as much money as you make, except now you've lost 15 hours of your week and you've got to turn up there 3 or 4 days a week, bang on time, and slosh around amongst a bunch of friggin' rancid chicken fat. You know, it just, you know, some of these jobs, there's no sense in the way the welfare system's set up to even bother. There was another one in my town, actually, who, oh, what was it? I think it was 9 to 15 hours a week. And I know exactly where it is. It's at the end of my road. Close to the piggery, actually. And long story short, if you went for that, they would pay minimum wage, because all you're doing is just walking dogs around and turfing out a bit of food to these dogs, and then, like, you might as well not even bother. Because I used to see them out there doing this when I drive to the piggery, because the piggery's just a bit further along and across and that, but it's not that far. And, you know, I'd be driving in there friggin' 6:30, 7, and they'd be walking these dogs around, and you know, if you went for it, you just shoot yourself in the foot, you know. There's no point, sort of thing. It's one of these things where it's like, a lot of these are like housewife jobs, semi-retired, you know, and if you can do all this stuff, you know, even semi-retired, if you got to do it and you lose your pension, you know, there's not going to be much of a point. But just for a housewife to do a few things, or some kid who needs a lame excuse of a job just to stop getting told by his mum, you need to get a job and get off the couch and stop playing fucking Xbox or whatever, well, yeah. But other than that, you know, and as I've just showed there, you know, 6 hours a week, you know, what the fuck are you going to do with that, you know, except just have to wake up early. But anyway, trouble is, a lot of these ones you couldn't hold, say, 4 of those jobs at once. It just wouldn't work, because they all expect you to kiss their ass full stop, you know, and it's just too much of an arse, and they just sort of don't. There's so few people who actually understand the way the welfare system works that you take one step ahead and they cut one step off your friggin' payment, that you might as well not even taken that one step, you know. But nobody seems to understand it, and they seem to think the welfare office is flexible. They aren't flexible worth a shit. If you want to change any appointments you've got to sit on a friggin' wait line, sometimes for 45 minutes people used to sit there. You know, and I've had times where I've sat on these wait lines at times for the unemployment office a few years back when I first went to get on it. And I'm not joking, I spent 8.5 hours that day on the phone, I think it was, because I got disconnected 2 times after waiting for a few hours. You know, that's just scrambled eggs sometimes. But anyway, she's all raining, so not much else I can do other than trifle through looking for jobs and cook a bit more stuff up. And should probably have a little snooze because I'm just about ready to hit the bloody ground. Because I've been awake for damn near 12 hours with not a great deal of sleep last night. How was that? For an eggplant. Look at the size of the bloody thing. And this is probably one of the widest eggplants I've seen in a long time. I mean, seriously. That is wide. Look at it comparative to my hand. I mean, that's bloody enormous compared to the size of my hand. These, I used to pay nearly $5 each per eggplant, and they're $3.49 a kilogram. And as a lot of you know, these are very spongy inside, so it means the weight isn't terribly much comparative to, say, a pumpkin or something like that. Anyway, I had to show those before I slice the bastards up and fry them up. I've woken up again at 4 AM. It's now about 5:30, and yeah, time to eat. Alrighty. The sun's come out, so I've started working on all this. I've actually wiped a lot of that, gave it a brush, a little brush, and actually wiped it out with a wet towel, like baby wipes, just to get any of the dirt out that the brush didn't get out, you know, get it out properly. So when I put silicone on there, it's going to stick properly. I had this a little bit too long. Like honestly, it would have just about overshot the gutter, which I was talking about before. And I'm trimming away with the angle grinder, and it just keeps going. I'm thinking there's going to be bits fall off, because usually they're like this. You know, one piece, second piece. I've got a couple around the corner there. One's about 1 width wide. Hang on. Yep, like that. Now, this, of course, your corrugated iron. 862 wide, and these are usually 862 wide. 862 millimetres. And I know where he got this from, as I suspected, out of a bin. Because this thing is about bloody 1400 wide or more. No, hell, it's damn near, it'd be about 1800 wide. That sheet up there is just one entire bloody sheet. I've never seen anything like it. And I never realised, I always thought it was multiple sheets. You know, you just assume it is, because most of them are. And you've got a little short piece there, and 862 there, and then another really wide bit there on the top part, and then it comes down to this giant bit on the bottom. Somebody's been nicking stuff out of the bin for sure, because you just cannot even commercially get it this wide. It just doesn't happen, just doesn't exist, it's not available. So now I know why it's not fallen down and fallen off, because it's all the one giant piece. Anyway, like I said, he always liked grabbing stuff out of bins, and that would be another one. Alrighty, I don't know how many Americans know how much about guttering, because I gather that quite a number of people don't like it in the States, but here it's just expected on houses. I think it's actually required on houses legally. You know, it's part of the code. Anyways, I'll talk about these little things here. Now that piece bends over the top of the lip. There's multiple types. This is a common enough type where it bends over. My father's shed, his old one, they actually come over and they go right back to here. Now there's your square gutter as well, which I'll talk about in a second, which has a different sort of one altogether. And I did have some of the clips for it, but they're right out against the boundary fence with all the other odds and sods for guttering, so I don't have them on the front lawn. There's these other ones we used to use building pergolas, where you basically would have nothing at the back and you'd slap a screw in pretty high up here, like, you know, as in not down here but up here, and then you had this thing which was like a little slightly dome shape to give it, you know, strength. Instead of being perfectly flat because it would just be wobbly, it had sort of like a bit of a sort of a ridge sort of shape that would then come out, and it had this little curl, you know, at the end it'd sort of be like, and what would happen is you could sort of, maybe the curl was upside down. I think the curl was upside down, and you'd sit it against here. Like if you had it upright, you could get the edge of this curl to sort of hook in, and then as you pushed it down, the little curl would just continue to spiral inside this piece here. And then this piece that had the slight ridge, you'd actually rivet that to one of your upper pieces. And that would attach it basically. And yeah. Now back to the box gutter, which I was going to put up, which had the big lip that sat right out like that, which sort of stuffed up my whole situation for, well, at least the first half until it got to the fiberglass. That's sort of different again. It's odd. What they've got is the one I was just talking about that hooks from there back. It's like as though the bracket comes out of the bottom, but this piece here, instead of going right over the bottom, it only literally sits out about half an inch. And then it comes up, and you've got two bits at the top. One that goes straight out and has a little curl to hook into the lip, and another one which just comes straight out, and you bend that piece down so that it literally sits like a little finger, like that. All sort of like that. And that will hold it in to this little half-inch piece out here. Well, this house that I come across that they stuffed up, you know, they had the lower point there, higher point there, then the downpipe there. They also, you know, another glorious one by a qualified pastry chef, they decided it'd be a good idea to get, you know, this was a box gutter, to get these, they had the little bits out there, they had the other piece that comes up there, all fine, they had a little bit there, bent over, but the piece that comes out the bottom, instead of bending the little finger in nice and tight, they were concerned it wasn't going to hold. So the piece that comes out the bottom, which is probably like about, you know, maybe a little bit more than half an inch, they said, well, what we're going to do, we're going to make this better. So they drilled a friggin' hole straight up through that, straight into the gutter, and put a rivet in there, and then blobbed some silicone on. The whole fucking way along. Great. Because if I didn't quite get the silicone right, or the silicone didn't quite go over the top of the rivet, you know, not the flat side, but the internal side, which of course all these, your lumpier sides, were on the bottom because they'd riveted from underneath. If any water worked its way into there because they hadn't quite siliconed right, it would rot the gutter out pretty damn quickly, because you had exposed, or they had exposed, the bare steel in the process of drilling a hole through the bottom. And I mean, it's supposed to carry water. Why the hell are you drilling holes in the bottom of it, you know? It's like, That's like trying to mount your car fuel tank into your vehicle and throwing away the proper straps that you're supposed to use, and then instead of drilling, like, you know, putting rivets in the top to hold it from above, you say, well, it's not going to hold it good. What we've got to do is put some straps underneath and drill holes through the bottom. And why would you do it? You know, you just turning a thing that was perfect into something that is now open potential for problems. And, well, you know, it was a good attempt by somebody who was probably qualified pastry chef who should have just stuck to making croissants. But I saw that and I just thought, holy smoke, dickhead. You know, these things, they look like they're going to fall off, and there's some of them that they do if they don't put the finger on good enough or the wind's friggin' horrendous. But this was in a suburban backyard in a very sheltered area, and no. But anyway, that's what you get when you get a quote-unquote home from a professional builder. Yeah. It reminds me of my dad's cousin's a plumber. Anyway, for whatever reason, they must have been going through an area and there was all these display homes. And I thought, well, let's have a look at these display homes. It didn't have much to do, or what they were going to do didn't work out that Saturday. So they said, stuff it. Might as well have a look at these. And he said he went inside and they had one of these, and this was a display home for one of these big home builders. He went into the frickin' thing, being a plumber, you know, if there was any plumbing fuck-ups, he was going to pick up on it. They walked in there was water leaking through the plaster in the fucking ceiling, not too far from a light fitting. This was the display home that everybody looks at to try and get them enthused about getting a new home, and telling them, you know, the salesman tells them what options they can have and blah, blah, blah. And instead of just showing them some bullshit thing on a computer screen, they can, you know, look at a real home with this feature and that feature, and they'll have like 3 homes or maybe 4 with all the different features so they can see what it looks like in real life. And this thing was leaking through the fucking ceiling into the carpet, and he said, holy smoke. Like, you would think that when you make the demo home, you would make sure that you built it bloody perfectly, because it's like when you test drive a new car. You know, they give you the demonstrator that you get to have a drive around in before you get to order your one directly from the factory and specify what, you know, seats you want, colour you want, and all the options that you want. And here they were with a demonstration one leaking out of the fucking ceiling into the carpet. Yeah, I suppose at least then people know what sort of a home builder they're dealing with. Alrighty, let's put some more wood in here because it was tempting to rain before. There we go. She up and she on. Had all this worked out, marked it out, went down, cut it, and I sort of, you see that one's further out than this one. It's got a lot to do with this window being here, and the framing around this window. But that's a bit better. The wind's blowing. As a result, this is out a bit more than this one. And when I cut it, I made it as though this one was out further than this one. But I bent it back a bit, and we had to do a fair bit of silicon and a bit of bullshit, and unfortunately I had to put a rivet in the bottom too. But this continues, this bottom piece continues to go into here, probably up to about, well, there or something. It's more than an inch overlap inside this one anyway. So, yeah, we got it all done alright. You can't put them on with pliers, you need multi-grips. Pliers just ain't big enough. A little black-shouldered kite. Oh, you might be able to see him there. He was hovering there for quite a while before. Anyway, when you get up there, you can see there's an actual drop, and yeah. Can't tell you how much of a drop, but there's multiple rings there on the spirit level. and it was, you're supposed to get it on the bubble is supposed to be in between the two finer lines, and if you want an angle for roofing or guttering or something, you have the bubble sort of in between, you know, one of the heavier lines, and that's generally your right angle. So I can't exactly tell you what the fall level is, but it's whatever is approved by the standard way it's done, and that's what the little lines on that level are to indicate, and I've done it to those lines which obviously would be made to whatever the building standard is supposed to be. Anyway, I'm going to go around and do the other side after it's 2:15. I'm going to have a bit of lunch and then start to work out the other side. String line, level, and start to probably bang on some of the clips, and you know, sort of go out and maybe pick some guttering out and whatnot, but really just work out all my clips and my angles first. And I've got to buy another one of those downpipe pots tomorrow, which is that little bit. They actually come out bloody good, where I drilled through with that 72, 73 mil hole saw. Let's see if I can show you. Like, there's not much overhang or anything in there from where the hole is to where the sides of that pipe is, and yeah, and that'll fit your 90 mil. I don't have any bit of white PVC, well, not right here, I've got plenty laying around, but that's also stored with all the guttering up there. That'll go on there, which is basically 3 5/8 PVC pipe, and yeah, it's the only one I've got of those. It was actually a brand new one that was here from years ago, never used, and I'll have to get another one of those tomorrow for doing the gutter around the other side. But it said it was raining yesterday, and I might want to make a run at trying to do these gutters, because we're getting to these days where, you know, you get a warm day and then you get a cold day with intermittent rain, and then you get a bit of a warm day, or a day that's not too warm but it's not raining. But you know, we're basically heading into autumn, and rain is going to become more common, and I will lose my chances. Maybe within 2 or 3 weeks it will be impossible to do anything guttering related anymore. But I am hoping sometime this coming week. We've had a long weekend, and when that happens, the unemployment office usually pays out early, and as a result I've got my money early. But sometime next week, when I'm not scrambling around looking for jobs, I'm going to try and go down and get that huge bloody 200 metre 19 mil or 3/4 inch water line, and at some later point then we can work out all the fittings. But all these fittings and that there, you know, you can do them piss and wet, so that doesn't really matter. But while I have the money set aside, I want to get that water line, and I've still got to go down and piss around trying to level the IBCs properly, because they're sort of they're not sitting perfectly flat, so I'll have to do that. But once again, you know, I can do that with a bit of intermittent rain without too much of a problem, but I can't silicon stuff with intermittent rain, so continue to work on the guttering.